Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We made a mistake and posted it onto the wrong. We started the video on the wrong page because there's two possible pages. And now we're on the right page, and we're keeping the same title, 3:33:1. That's the third canto, 33rd chapter. Text number 1. And we already said our prayers on the other page. So if you want to see the prayers, you can watch it on the other page. Hare Krishna. Sorry for all the confusion tonight, but like I said, the youngsters are having a party out at the farm on Friday nights. So us oldsters are here, kind of waddling along, trying to keep the show going. Hare Krishna. All right, we're in the 33rd chapter of the third canto, and this is the glories of Kapila Dev, and this is the last chapter of the third canto. So we've made it through another canto by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the glories of the devotees. So text 1. Sri Maitreya said, "Thus Devahuti, the mother of Lord Kapila and wife of Kardama Muni, became freed from all ignorance concerning devotional service and transcendental knowledge. She offered her obeisances unto the Lord, the author of the basic principles of the Sankhya system of philosophy, which is the background of liberation, and she satisfied him with the following verses of prayer." Purport. So she must know that he's going to run off now that he's performed his duty. Purport. The system of philosophy enunciated by Lord Kapila before his mother is the background for situation on the spiritual platform. The specific significance of this system of philosophy is stated herein as Siddhi Bhumim. Siddhi Bhumim. It is the background of salvation. People who are suffering in this material world because they are conditioned by the material energy can easily get freedom from the clutches of matter by understanding the Sankhya philosophy enunciated by Lord Kapila. By this system of philosophy, one can immediately become free even though one is situated in this material world. That stage is called Jivan Mukti. This means that one is liberated even though one stays within his material body. That happened for Devahuti, the mother of Lord Kapila, and she therefore satisfied the Lord by offering her prayers. Anyone who understands the basic principle of Sankhya philosophy is elevated in devotional service and becomes fully Krishna conscious or liberated even within this material world. Text 2. Devahuti said, "Brahma is said to be unborn because he takes birth from the lotus flower which grows from your abdomen while you lie in the ocean at the bottom of the universe. But even Brahma simply meditated upon you, whose body is the source of unlimited universes." Purport. Brahma is also called Aja, he who is unborn. Whenever we think of someone's birth, there must be a material father and mother, for thus one is born. But Brahma, being the first living creature within this universe, was born directly from the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. The Vishnu form, lying down in the ocean at the bottom of the universe. Devahuti wanted to impress upon the Lord that when Brahma wants to see him, he has to meditate upon him. "You are the seed of all creation," she said. "Although Brahma was directly born from you, he still has to perform many years of meditation. Even then, he cannot see you directly, face to face. Your body is lying within the vast water at the bottom of the universe, and thus you are known as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu." The nature of the Lord's gigantic body is also explained in this verse. The body is transcendental. That body is transcendental, untouched by matter. Since the material manifestation has come from his body therefore existed before the material creation. The conclusion is that the transcendental body of Vishnu is not made of material elements. The body of Vishnu is the source of all other living entities as well as the material nature, which is also supposed to be the energy of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Devahuti said, "You are the background of the material manifestation of all created energy. Therefore, you are delivering me from the clutches of Maya by explaining the system of Sankhya philosophy is not so astonishing. But your being born from my abdomen is certainly wonderful, because although you are the source of all creation, you have so kindly taken birth as my child." That is most wonderful. Your body is the source of all the universe, and still you put your body within the abdomen of a common woman like me. To me, that is most astonishing. Text 3. My dear Lord, although personally you have nothing to do, you have distributed your energies in the interactions of the material modes of nature, and for that reason, the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation take place. My dear Lord, you are self-determined, and you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead for all living entities. For them, you created this material manifestation, and although you are one, your diverse energies can act multifariously. This is inconceivable to us. Purport. The statement made in this verse by Devahuti that the Absolute Truth has many diverse energies, although he personally has nothing to do, is confirmed in the Upanishads. There is no one greater than him or on an equal level with him, and everything is completely done by his energy, as if by nature. It is understood herein, therefore, that although the modes of material nature are entrusted to different manifestations, like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, each of whom is particularly invested with different kinds of power, the Supreme Lord is completely aloof from such activities. Devahuti is saying, although you personally are not doing anything, your determination is absolute. There is no question of your fulfilling your will with the help of anyone else besides yourself. You are in the end the Supreme Soul and the Supreme Controller. Your will, therefore, cannot be checked by anyone else. The Supreme Lord can check others' plans. The Supreme Lord can check others' plans. As it is said, man proposes and God disposes. But when the Supreme Personality of Godhead proposes, that desire is under no one else's control. He is absolute. We are ultimately dependent on him to fulfill our desires, but we cannot say that God's desires are also dependent. That is his inconceivable power. That which may be inconceivable for ordinary living entities is easily done by him. And in spite of his being unlimited, he has subjected himself to being unknown from the authoritative scriptures like the Vedic literatures. As it is said, Shabda Mulat Vat. He can be known through the Shabda Brahma, or Vedic scripture, Vedic literature. Why is the creation made? Since the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead for all living entities, he created this material manifestation for those living entities who want to enjoy or lord it over material nature. As the Supreme Godhead, he arranges to fulfill their various desires. It is confirmed also in the Vedas, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. The Supreme One supplies the necessities of the many living entities. There is no limit to the demands of the different kinds of living entities. And the Supreme One, the Supreme Personality of Godhead alone, maintains them and supplies them by His inconceivable energy. Text 4. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you have taken birth from my abdomen. O my Lord, how is that possible for the Supreme One who has in His belly all the cosmic manifestation? The answer is that it is possible, for at the end of the millennium, you lie down on a leaf of a banyan tree, and just like a small baby, you lick the toe of your lotus foot. Purport. At the time of disillusion, the Lord sometimes appears as a small baby, lying on a leaf of a banyan tree, floating on the devastating water. Therefore, Devahuti suggests, your lying down within the abdomen of a common woman like me is not so astonishing. You can lie down on a leaf of a banyan tree and float on the water of devastation as a small baby. It is not very wonderful, therefore, that you can lie down in the abdomen of my body. You teach us that those who are very fond of children within this material world, and who therefore enter into marriage to enjoy family life with children, can also have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their child. And the most wonderful thing is that the Lord Himself licks His toe. Since all the great sages and devotees apply all energy and all activities in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, there must be some transcendental pleasure in the toes of His lotus feet. Confirmed by the local conch shell of Maya. Don't listen too carefully, it says. If you listen too carefully to the Bhagavatam, you'll leave my clutches. Okay, we're going to let the train go by. Okay. I'll start with that paragraph again. This is too sweet, huh? The Lord's liking the taste of His own lotus feet. Since all the great sages and devotees apply all energy and all activities in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, there must be some transcendental pleasure in the toes of His lotus feet. The Lord licks His toe to taste the nectar for which the devotees always aspire. Sometimes the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself wonders how much transcendental pleasure is within Himself, and in order to taste His own potency, He sometimes takes the position of tasting Himself. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna Himself, but He appears as a devotee to taste the sweetness of the transcendental mellow in Himself, which is tasted by Srimati Radharani, the greatest of all devotees. How sweet is that? Text 5. My dear Lord, you have assumed this body in order to diminish the sinful activities of the fallen and to enrich their knowledge in devotion and liberation. Since these sinful people are dependent on your direction, by your own will, you assume incarnations as a boar and other forms. Similarly, you have appeared in order to distribute transcendental knowledge to your dependents. Purport. In previous verses, the general transcendental qualifications of the Supreme Personality of Godhead were described. Now, the specific purpose of the Lord's appearance is also described. By His different energies, He bestows different kinds of bodies upon the living entities, who are conditioned by their propensity to lord it over material nature. But in course of time, these living entities become so degraded that they need enlightenment. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that whenever there are discrepancies in the discharge of the real purpose of this material existence, the Lord appears as an incarnation. The Lord's form as Kapila directs the fallen souls and enriches them with knowledge and devotion so that they may go back to Godhead. There are many incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like those of the boar, the fish, the tortoise, and the half-man, half-lion. Lord Kapila Dev is also one of the incarnations of Godhead. It is accepted herein that Lord Kapila Dev appeared on the surface of the earth to give transcendental knowledge to the misguided, conditioned souls. Text 6. To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Person face to face, even a person born in a family of dog-eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or chants about him, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisances, or even remembers him. Hare Krishna. So how important is our little reading group? Huh? We are hearing about his pastimes. We're eligible now to perform Vedic sacrifices. As a matter of fact, what we're doing right now is Vedic sacrifice. Hare Krishna. Congratulations, everyone out there in cyberspace. Purport. Herein, the spiritual potency of chanting, hearing, or remembering the holy name of the Supreme Lord is greatly stressed. Rupa Goswami has discussed the sequence of sinful activities of the conditioned soul, and he has established in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that those who engage in devotional service become freed from the reactions of all sinful activities. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. The Lord says that He takes charge of one who surrenders unto Him, and He makes him immune to all reactions to sinful activities. If by chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes so swiftly cleared of all reactions to sinful activities, then what is to be said of those persons who see Him face to face? Another consideration here is that persons who are purified by the process of chanting and hearing become immediately eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. Generally, only a person who was born in a family of Brahmanas, who has been reformed by the 10 kinds of purificatory processes, and who is learned in the Vedic literature, is allowed to perform the Vedic sacrifices. But here, the word sadhya immediately is used. And Sridhar Swami also remarks that one can immediately become eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. A person in a family of the low caste, which is accustomed to eating dogs, is so positioned due to his past sinful activities. But by chanting or hearing once in pureness, or in an offenseless manner, he is immediately relieved of the sinful reaction. Not only is he relieved of the sinful reaction, but he immediately achieves the result of all purificatory processes. Taking birth in the family of a Brahmana is certainly due to pious activities in one's past life, but still, a child who is born in a family of a Brahmana depends for his further reformation upon initiation into acceptance of a sacred thread and many other reformatory processes. But a person who chants the holy name of the Lord, even if born in a family of chandalas, dog-eaters, does not need reformation. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, he immediately becomes purified and becomes as good as the most learned Brahmanas. Sridhar Swami especially remarks in this connection, Anena pujatvam lakshate. Some caste Brahmanas remark that by chanting Hare Krishna, purification begins. Of course, that depends on the individual process of chanting. But this remark of Sridhar Swami's is completely applicable if one chants the holy name of the Lord without offense. for he immediately becomes more than a Brahmana. As Sridhar Swami says, Pujatvam, he immediately becomes as respectable and as a most learned Brahmana and can be allowed to perform Vedic sacrifices. If simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord one becomes sanctified instantly, then what can be said of those persons who see the Supreme Lord face to face and who understand the descent of the Lord as Devahudi understands Kapila Dev? So this point here, that was just made in the purport, stresses the point, the reason that Srila Prabhupada asked us to follow the four regulative principles. Because if we follow the four regulative principles regularly and strictly, then our chanting becomes pure, gradually. Without following the regular principles strictly, then our chanting can't be said to be pure. And if we continually do that, then even the chanting can degrade us. But if we continue to chant, even if we are still committing offenses like that, if we continue to chant and don't stop under any condition, we get the same effect, the purification, the full purification, but it takes a long time. It can take many millions of births. So therefore, we're encouraged, more than encouraged, we are admonished by Sridhar Swami and all the in purports and all the whole Bhagavatam actually, to try our best to chant without offense. Back to the purport. Usually initiation depends on the bona fide spiritual master who directs the disciple. If he sees that a disciple has become competent and purified by the process of chanting, he offers the sacred thread to the disciple just so that he will be recognized as 100% equal with a Brahmana. This is also confirmed in the Hari Bhakti Vilas by Srila Sanatana Goswami. As a base metal, like bell metal, can be changed into gold by a chemical process, any person can similarly be changed into a Brahmana by Diksha Vidhana, the initiation process. It is sometimes remarked, It is sometimes remarked that by the chanting process one begins to purify himself and can take birth in his next life in a Brahmana family and then be reformed. But at this present moment, even those who were born in the best Brahmana families are not reformed. Nor is there any certainty that they are actually born of Brahmana fathers. Formerly, the Garbhadhana reformatory system was prevalent, but at the present moment, there is no such Garbhadhana or seed-giving ceremony. Under these circumstances, no one knows if a man is factually born of a Brahmana father. Whether one has acquired the qualification of a Brahmana depends on the judgment of the bona fide spiritual master. He bestows upon the disciple the position of a Brahmana by his own judgment. When one is accepted as a Brahmana in the sacred thread ceremony under the Pancharatrika system, then he is Dvija, twice born. That is confirmed by Sanatana Goswami, Dvijatvam Jayate. But the process of initiation by the spiritual master, by the process of initiation by the spiritual master, a person is accepted as a Brahmana in his purified state of chanting the holy name of the Lord. He then makes further progress to become a qualified Vaishnava, which means that the Brahminical qualification is already acquired. So what this means is that the second initiation, or the initiation into the Brahma Gayatri mantras is not actually absolutely required in the Kali Yuga. If someone is initiated properly into the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and he chants without offense, then he can perform Vedic sacrifices and he can go back to Godhead, even without the Gayatri mantra. But Prabhupada mentions in his purport to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila text, or chapter 15, text 108. You can check this up. I don't have time to look it up and read it. It's a long purport. In there he gives all the Vedic references that describe how the brahminical initiation is required. And then at the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, we need this in the Kali Yuga because we're not pure. And we need the purification of the performance of deity worship in order to keep our chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra pure. But if we are pure in our chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, we don't even need the Gayatri mantra. We can be liberated simply by the chanting of the offenseless chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So both are needed, but in rare circumstances in which a person chants without offense the holy name, that's all he really needs. Still, Prabhupada said we should take the second initiation and perform deity worship. Why? As an example for others. The holy name is so powerful that if it can deliver anyone from any condition, from any position. But in Kali Yuga we're so fallen that we continually make offenses. So therefore the initiation is necessary. That verse in the Madhya Lila, chapter 15, text 108, the verse actually says that there's no need of initiation into the chanting of the holy name. But then Prabhupada explains, yes, Prabhupada explains, that means for liberated soul, so one who's already liberated, So there he gives all the Vedic evidence, one after one, and then he explains very clearly in the purport that because we need the purificatory processes to keep our chanting pure, to make our chanting pure, to keep our chanting pure. Therefore, initiation into the holy name is necessary. So we make the vow to follow the four regulated principles. That's what keeps us eligible to chant properly and to even try to chant without offense. And eventually, the deity worship is required also. Okay, let's move on. Text 7, very important purport we just read. Oh, how this is Devahuti is continuing her prayers to her son, Kapila Dev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. This is such an important verse. I will chant the Sanskrit. Aho, batta, shapacho, toguriyan, yajjivagre, vartate namatubhyam, tupas te juhuvu sasnurarya, ramanuchur namagrinantayete. Very famous verse. Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. Even if born in the families of dog-eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your Lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your Lordship, they must have bathed at holy places of pilgrimage, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required. So sometimes in this life, when a person becomes so fortunate to start chanting the holy name and reads these verses, they say, how is it possible for me to be doing this? I'm so fallen in this life, and who God knows, mother. But here it's confirmed by Devahuti herself, Mother of God, that anyone who's actually chanting regularly and trying sincerely must have done the requirements before in a previous life. And Prabhupada adds in his purports, or has received the special mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord, an associate of the Lord, which is our good fortune. Yeah, which is our good fortune. Okay, purport 333.7, super important verse. Purport. As it is stated in the previous verse, a person who has once offensively chanted the holy name of God becomes immediately eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. One should not be astonished by this statement of Srimad-Bhagavatam. One should not disbelieve or think, how by chanting the holy name of the Lord can one become a holy man, to be compared to the most elevated Brahmana? To eradicate such doubts in the minds of unbelievers, this verse affirms that the stage of chanting of the holy name of the Lord is not sudden, but that the chanters have already performed all kinds of Vedic rituals and sacrifices. It is not very astounding, for no one in this life can chant the holy name of the Lord unless he has passed all the lower stages, such as performing of the Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, studying the Vedas, and practicing good behavior like that of the Aryans. All this must first have been done. Just as a student in a law class can be understood to have already graduated from general education, anyone who is engaged in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, must have already passed all the lower stages. It is stated that those who simply chant the holy name with the tip of the tongue are glorious. One does not even have to chant the holy name and understand the whole procedure, namely the offensive stage, offenseless stage, and pure stage. If the holy name is sounded on the tip of the tongue, that is also sufficient. It is said herein that Nama, a singular number, one name, Krishna or Rama, is sufficient. It is not that one has to chant all the holy names of the Lord. The holy names of the Lord are innumerable, and one does not have to chant all the names to prove that he has already undergone all the processes of Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. If one chants once only, it is to be understood that he has already passed all the examinations, not to speak of those who are chanting always 24 hours a day. It is specifically said here, Tubhyam, unto you only. One must chant God's name, not, as the Mayavadi philosophers say, any name, such as a demigod's name, or the names of God's energies. Only the holy name of the Supreme Lord will be effective. Anyone who compares the holy name of the Supreme Lord to the names of the demigods is called Pashandi, or an offender. The holy name has to be chanted to please the Supreme Lord, and not for any sense gratification or professional purpose. If this pure mentality is there, then even though a person born of a low family, such as a dog eater's, he is so glorious that not only has he purified himself, but he is quite competent to deliver others. He is competent to speak on the importance of the transcendental name, just as Thakur Haridas did. He was apparently born in a family of Mohammedans, but because he was chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord offenselessly, Lord Chaitanya empowered him to become the authority, or Acharya, of spreading the name. It did not matter that he was born in a family which was not following the Vedic rules and regulations. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Prabhu accepted him. I'll read that again. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Prabhu accepted him as an authority because he was offensively chanting the holy name, the name of the Lord. Authorities like Advaita Prabhu and Lord Chaitanya immediately accepted that he had already performed all kinds of austerities, studied the Vedas, and performed all sacrifices. That is automatically understood. There is a hereditary class of brahmanas called the smarta brahmanas, however, who are of the opinion that even if such persons who are chanting the holy name of the Lord are accepted as purified, they still have to perform the Vedic rites or await their next birth in a family of brahmanas so that they can perform the Vedic rituals. But actually, that is not the case. Such a man does not need to wait for the next birth to become purified. He is at once purified. It is understood that he has already performed all sorts of rites. It is the so-called brahmanas who actually have to undergo different kinds of austerities before reaching that point of purification. There are many other Vedic performances which are not described here. All such Vedic rituals have been already performed by the chanters of the holy name. The word juhu-vu means that the chanters of the holy name have already performed all kinds of sacrifices. Sasnu means that they have already traveled to all the holy places of pilgrimage and taken part in purificatory activities in those places. They are called Arya because they have already finished all these requirements, and therefore they must be among the Aryans, or those who have qualified themselves to become Aryans. Aryan refers to those who are civilized, whose manners are regulated according to Vedic rituals. Any devotee who is chanting the holy name of the Lord is the best of Aryan, the best kind of Aryan. I'll repeat that. Any devotee who is chanting the holy name of the Lord is the best kind of Aryan. Unless one studies the Vedas, one cannot become an Aryan. But it is automatically understood that the chanters have already studied all the Vedic literature. The specific word used here is anuchu, which means that because they have already completed all those recommended acts, they have become qualified to be spiritual masters. The very word grinanti, which is used in this verse, means to be already established in the perfectional stage of ritualistic performances. If one is seated on the branch of a high court and is giving judgment on cases, it means that he has already passed all legal exams and is better than those who are engaged in the study of law or those expecting to study law in the future. In a similar way, persons who are chanting the holy name are transcendental to those who are factually performing the Vedic rituals and those who expect to be qualified, or in other words, those who are born in families of brahmanas but have not yet undergone the reformatory processes, and who therefore expect to study the Vedic rituals and perform the sacrifices in the future. There are many Vedic statements in different places saying that anyone who chants the holy name of the Lord becomes immediately freed from conditional life, and that anyone who hears the holy name of the Lord, even though born of a family of dog-eaters, also becomes liberated from the clutches of material entanglement. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What a purport. Eh? Yes.
It's 7:38. What is your plan? Reading?
My plan is to continue on until at least 7:50 because we didn't start until 6:50. Thank you though for the heads up. How are we doing in the broadcast? Has it been steady? Still steady.
People are there.
Good. Did we stop the Wi-Fi? I don't think we did.
No, we didn't. But it's been on live.
I think the Wi-Fi is working, which is a good sign, which means because we're not using any data. Because AT&T has this policy. I'm on Haridas's family plan. Yeah, and it's unlimited. But once you get over 22 gigabytes, use it. They slows it down. These people are so... But I have to say, in all honesty, even though sometimes I criticize the American system, we were using a lot more data when we were in the UK. A lot more. Like we would use 3-4 gigs every night. And here we only use a gig. Maybe it'll be even a little less. Yeah. So maybe I should be more careful about my motherland. Well, I accept India as my motherland now, but I'm kind of adopted.
We have confirmation that signal is clear, everything is good, and yes.
Well, thanks to the... anyway, I won't give too much credit to AT&T because Hare Krishna.
They're listening. They're not.
Yeah. They'll probably cut me off completely if I don't behave myself. Okay. All glories to AT&T for providing the forum for us to glorify the Lord all over the world. Hare Krishna. All right, now that I performed that ritualistic ceremony, I can get back to chanting the Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Text 8. I believe, my Lord, that you are Lord Vishnu himself, under the name of Kapila, and you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Brahman. The saints and sages, being freed from all the disturbances of the senses and mind, meditate upon you. For by your mercy only can one become free from the clutches of the three modes of material nature. At the time of dissolution, all the Vedas are sustained in you only. Purport. Devahuti, the mother of Kapila, instead of prolonging her prayers, summarized that Lord Kapila was none other than Vishnu, and that since she was a woman, it was not possible for her to worship him properly simply by prayer. It was her intention that the Lord be satisfied. The word pratyak is significant. In yogic practice, the 8 divisions are yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Pratyahara means to wind up the activities of the senses. The level of realization of the Supreme Lord, evidenced by Devahuti, is possible when one is able to withdraw the senses from material activities. When one is engaged in devotional service, there is no scope for his senses to be engaged otherwise. In such full Krishna consciousness, one can understand the Supreme Lord as he is. Text 9. Thus the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila, satisfied by the words of his mother, towards whom he was very affectionate, replied with gravity. Purport. Since the Lord is all perfect, his exhibition of affection for his mother was also complete. After hearing the words of his mother, he most respectfully, with due gravity and good manners, replied. So even God is properly respectful of his mother. Text 10. The personality of Godhead said, My dear mother, the path of self-realization, which I have already instructed to you, is very easy. You can execute this system without difficulty, and by following it, you shall very soon be liberated, even within your present body. Purport. Devotional service is so perfect that simply by following the rules and regulations and executing them under the direction of the spiritual master, one is liberated, as it is said herein, from the clutches of Maya, even in this body. In other words, in other yogic processes, or in empiric philosophical speculation, one is never certain whether or not he is at the perfectional stage. But in the discharge of devotional service, If one has unflinching faith in the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master and follows the rules and regulations, he is sure to be liberated, even within this present body. Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has also confirmed this. Iha yasya hader dasye. Regardless of where he is situated, anyone whose only aim is to serve the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritual master is called Jivan Mukta, or one who is liberated even within his material body. Sometimes doubts arise in the minds of neophytes about whether or not the spiritual master is liberated. And sometimes neophytes are doubtful about the bodily affairs of the spiritual master. The point of liberation, however, is not to see the bodily symptoms of the spiritual master. One has to see the spiritual symptoms of the spiritual master. Jivan Mukta means that even though one is in the material body, there are still some material necessities, since the body is material. One is fully situated in the service of the Lord. Because one is fully situated in the service of the Lord, he should be understood to be liberated. Liberation entails being situated in one's own position. That is the definition in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Muktir Surupena Vyavastitihi. The Surupa, or actual identity of the living entity, is described by Lord Chaitanya. Jivera Surupa Hoya Krishnera Nityadas. The real identity of the supreme entity, of the living entity, I'll repeat that. The real identity of the living entity is that he is eternally a servitor of the Supreme Lord. If someone is 100% engaged in the service of the Lord, he is to be understood as liberated. One must understand whether or not he is liberated. One must understand whether or not he is liberated by his activities in devotional service, not by other symptoms. So I'll stop tonight here. We've got almost to 7:50, 7:46, and we started at 6:50. So this is a very wonderful chapter, Glories of Kapila Dev, especially these prayers of Devahuti about the holy name. Special. So let's open it up to reflections. We have our Hannah is at the party with the kids tonight at the farm, so she usually starts the ball rolling, but all of us adults will have to, take up the slack. Yeah. Anything you heard that you want to elaborate on or reflect on or talk about further, please be our guest. Hare Krishna. Our Dr. Damodar is going. He must have some excruciatingly painful duties to tend to. Hare Krishna. We'll see you tomorrow. Haribol.
One thing I heard from the...
Okay, Shweta Dweepa is going to give us a reflection.
From the text 7, it says one does not even have to chant the holy name and understand the whole procedure, namely the offenseless stage and pure stage. If the holy name is sounded on the tip of the tongue, that is sufficient to be considered as that he has performed, or he or she has performed all those Vedic rituals previous life. But if one is chanting holy name in an offensive way, let's say, it's still he means you mentioned that even after chanting for millions of years, he is not liberated. How do we?
Good question. Very good question. This is a very, very subtle and deep science. It seems on the surface it seems very simple and clear, and but it's very deep and very subtle. the point that's being made here is that if you're chanting, then you have performed previously. Processes to be eligible to chant. It doesn't mean that your chanting is automatically pure. It means that you've done previously activities which make you eligible or allow you to chant. But then from that position, it's up to you to chant without offense and to learn to chant without offense. But if by some force of circumstances, this is Kali Yuga's benediction to the fallen souls, Lord Chaitanya's benediction to the fallen souls, or us. If by some force of circumstances you chant, you get liberated. You get liberation. In this sense, it doesn't mean love of God. It means that you are allowed to chant without offense. You can follow the four regulative principles strictly. But that still doesn't mean you've gotten love of God. You have to chant the pure holy name to get love of God. So here we have two or three, maybe many more than that, but what I can perceive in my lowly condition, we have different considerations here, different levels of consideration. First of all, if you're chanting in this life, means you have to have done certain Vedic sacrifices and other going to places of pilgrimage and other things that purify you, make you eligible. It's called samskara. You have to have the samskara. That's why some people we meet who have never come in contact, when they hear, for instance, when we distribute books, sometimes we'll open the book and we'll read something to the person we're trying to give the book to convince them to take the book. And I've had the personal experience in my earlier days in Krishna consciousness, when we were distributing books at the airports many years ago, of having a person read one sentence and look at me and say, "This is exactly what I've been looking for, give me that book." And they would just insist and take more books and then run off in ecstasy. And sometimes the next person, I'll read the same sentence and they'll say, what are you doing? What language are you, I want something in English so that I can understand it. So unable they are to understand the first thing. So this is the difference. They must have been doing something previously to be eligible to be able to say that, to be able to understand what they're reading, the Bhagavatam. So that's the first thing. If you're chanting, or if you're reading something and understanding, it means you must have done something in the past to make yourself eligible to do that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're eligible yet for love of God. In order to get love of God from the chanting, you have to chant without offense. Now, but on top of that, there's a special concession we get in the Kali Yuga, and it's always true actually, but particularly in the Kali Yuga, because there's lots of nonsense going on in the Kali Yuga to cause us to be forced, If we chant under force of circumstances, I'll give you a very personal example. My dear mother, she was unfavorable her whole life, and by Krishna's grace, when it came time for her to leave, when she got cancer and then was diagnosed as terminal, that I went there and I started to take care of her. And I made my mind up, after consulting with my godbrothers, that I should just do that and take care of her until she leaves. And during that process, she was in a great deal of pain. And a couple of times at least, I remember 3 or 4 times at least, she chanted Hare Krishna. And she had never chanted Hare Krishna in her whole life. And she had probably, even offended me or other devotees in so many ways, probably cursing us for taking away her son from her. But, when she said Hare Krishna the first time, I was there. It was so powerful. I practically got knocked off my feet. I'm serious. And it was because she was completely in pain, and she didn't have any offenses in her mind. By force of circumstances, she was in so much pain, she just said, Hare Krishna. And it was powerful. And she ended up getting initiation, which is, a miracle. I saw with my own eyes, So even by force of, like for instance, you're going down the road and we see, an advertisement of the Ramada Inn. Ramada Inn. The word Rama is there. And somebody says, oh look, it's the Ramada Inn. And they say Rama, and it's just contained within another word, those syllables. And because they're innocent, they have no offense in their mind, and they say that, they become eligible. Not for love of God, but for liberation. What does liberation mean in this case? It means to perform devotional service without offense, or to perform serious devotional service, sustained devotional service, to attempt to become purified in devotional service. Does that answer the question? Thank you. Thank you for the question. It's a great question. It's a fantastic question.
There is a question from
Yes.
Jayashree Mataji.
Antonio is our techie tonight.
Yay.
He's standing in for Hannah.
So the question is, since she was a
This
woman,
is from Jayashree in Hong Kong. Hare Krishna, Jayashree.
Hare Krishna. Since she was a woman, it was not possible for her to worship him properly simply by prayer. Srimad-Bhagavatam 3.33.8, Guru Maharaj, can you explain a bit more what that means? Your servant Jayashree.
Yeah, this is a statement that has to be qualified by other statements in the Bhagavatam. When this talks about, and when Devahuti speaks in all humility, she's speaking out of humility of a pure devotee. She's not an ordinary woman. She says she's an ordinary woman, but she cannot be an ordinary woman because she had Kapila Deva as her son. A woman cannot give birth to Krishna unless she's a liberated soul. Even more than a liberated soul, she has to be an eternal associate of the Lord. But as an example for the people in general, she's saying that, as a woman, she can't actually understand properly. But what she's doing is she's glorifying Kapila. She's glorifying the process of devotional service. That even though I'm a poor fallen woman, ordinary person, not very intelligent, not able to understand, still he's giving her this mercy. So that's what it means. It's an expression of the humility of a pure devotee, of an eternal associate of the Lord. But above that, any man or woman or, anybody, who actually understands properly and becomes eligible to understand properly is not an ordinary woman or an ordinary man or an ordinary Shudra or an ordinary Vaishya. Yepisu papayoniya. It means striyo vaishyas tata shudras tepiyanti param gatim. Anyone who is actually performing devotional service can go back to Godhead and attain the highest goal, no matter what their birth is. And which is another meaning of this 333.7 that we read tonight, Devahuti's verse. If you're just chanting the holy name, in this life, means you've done a lot of things before that you're not aware of. That's the extent of my realization on that point at the moment. Hare Krishna. Did that answer your question? Jai Shri, type your answer please, so we can know whether we satisfied you, if you need further explanation. Huh?
No reply yet.
That means she's knocked off her feet.
Oh, yeah.
She's laying on the floor, going like this in ecstasy.
Okay, we have a thing.
Okay. Thank you for that lovely question. This is really, really a special reading. These verses, this Kapila, Devahuti's prayers to Kapila Dev. Oh, doesn't get any better than this. Yes, Antonio.
Well, Maharaj, I'm really present to what an amazing gift we have, or I have in this particular moment. I'm present to this mercy that just by even chanting imperfectly, even not doing it, so-called quote unquote. Yeah. And then I'm gonna use, since we were speaking about AT&T, we have a bargain with what's happening. We have the opportunity to really go for the nectar. Yeah. And that is what I'm present to right now. And following Prabhu's question, and yes. It's pure love.
Yes, and just to be able to think that. Just to be able to think that, or what to speak of, say it, in public, this means you've received the special mercy of Lord Chaitanya. That's a fact. That's a fact. When we were doing books, even now, the devotees are doing books, or doing any devotional service, but particularly trying to help another person understand devotional service. And you get this feeling inside your heart, reciprocation, that's unmistakable. And anybody who's done devotional service and experienced it themselves know that it's something special. It's actually the embrace of Lord Chaitanya. That's what Prabhupada told us. So yes, the mercy that we have been given to be able to sit together like this in the Kali Yuga and hear the Bhagavatam together and actually understand even anything and taste real happiness, the happiness that comes, it's very special mercy. So the deep gratitude, if we make that gratitude the foundation of the building of our house of bhakti, just like over here we're watching Saranga's house being built and all these stages. Remember in the beginning it was like, the foundation and then putting in the pipes and everything, and then it started to rain and they had to wait, and, so unless that foundation's done properly, it's very difficult to build a whole palace of bhakti, So we should acknowledge it, and more than acknowledge it, we should embrace the mercy that we've been given and feel deep down gratitude, and respond. Respond means to perform devotional service seriously, but not just casually, to be actually serious. Prabhupada says many times that it means attentiveness to detail. Attentiveness to detail in our chanting, in our hearing, in our serving, in our cooking for the Lord, in our serving the devotees. We pay attention to the detail. And this is the symptom of our love and our seriousness of our love. So yes, we have been given the mercy. Now it's up to us what we want to do with it.
We have something from Rati.
From Rati Manjari, okay.
Here's the question. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I am hearing many wonderful things about Lord Kapila during these past weeks. I understand that there is no difference between Lord Kapila and Lord Vishnu and Lord Krishna, but still I feel a preference for Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. Is it appropriate, proper / for me at my present position to have a preference for a certain incarnation of Krishna, or is it offensive?
Rati, it's your humility speaking. No, it's not offensive. But What is offensive is if we discriminate and think that Kapila Dev is not important. I mean, it's one thing to have a preference, and it's another thing to feel, that another incarnation of Krishna is less important or unimportant, or have an aversion. What to speak of aversion? Because the sahaja, it is offensive to dismiss the pastimes of the Lord as not important or insignificant, or in some way or other minimize them, because we want to focus on the higher rasas and get the gopi bhav, or the sakya bhav, of the Goloka Vrindavan with Krishna. These are very high, symptoms of love, intimate love. I mean, it's possible to feel like that, but the actual persons who are in Goloka, especially the gopis, who are the most elevated devotees, they don't think that what they are feeling is better than what others are feeling. Just the opposite. They think all other devotees are devotee, or all other persons are devotees, and I'm not a devotee. And they see other devotees as better devotees than they are. So if we're actually eligible and actually aspiring for that spiritual position, and at the same time we're going in a direction of thinking that we're higher, I live out there in Govardhan, and I've been for many, many years seen ex-ISKCON devotees go to Radhakund and say that they're higher now and they've gotten a real guru, and we're just in the basics, and we don't understand the higher things, and very soon they fall down. So many, I'm not saying everybody, but so many. It's common, very common. So when Krishna and the gopis are, going through the forest and having their pastimes and speaking and doing what they do, many times the gopis would ask Krishna to tell them stories. And Krishna would tell the stories of Nrsingadev and Prahlad and Vishnu and Dhruva Maharaj and all these things, and the gopis would come to tears in ecstasy. They would come to tears in ecstasy. So it's not offensive to feel a preference for Krishna or Lord Chaitanya. We are in that line of disciplic succession. Krishna and Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are our Ishta Devas, our worshipable deities given to us by Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya, and the previous acharyas in our line, no doubt. But that doesn't mean that we lose interest in Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, or Kapila Dev, explaining, Sankhya philosophy to Devahuti. Even though we may be more attracted to Krishna by nature, but it doesn't mean that we should in any way, feel not averse, maybe that's an extreme form, or what's the word, to feel kind of, nothing special. Every single important incarnation of Krishna has a specific mission to fulfill in the material world, and it's all Krishna's pastimes. That's why when Jayadev Goswami wrote the prayers to the incarnations, Dasavatar Stotra, in the beginning of Gita Govinda, which is practically one of the most intimate descriptions of Radha and Krishna pastimes that exists, Jayadev Goswami, he prefaces the work with the glories of the different incarnations of Krishna. Keshavadrita, Narahari Rupa, Jai Jagadishare. Keshavadrita, Meena Sharira, Jai Jagadishare. Krishna, Keshavadrita, Raha. So in all the different incarnations. So he says Keshavadrita, Narahari Rupa. Keshavadrita, Meena Sharira. Keshavadrita, Buddha Sharira. Like that. So it means that these are all Krishna. So even if we prefer Krishna's pastimes specifically in the form of Krishna, this is not wrong. It's right. It's nice if we have a special attraction for that. But we should also see that the other forms are actually forms of Krishna, then we should also be attached to hearing about them. We should never minimize them. And that would be a measure of the strength and purity and depth of our love for Krishna. Because all of these incarnations and expansions are contained within the body of Krishna. Does that answer the question?
Yes, we have that is a very nice point about Jayadev Goswami. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thanks for the question, Rati. We can count on you. All right, so I'm going to stop here and thank everyone for their taste for hearing and for giving me a taste for chanting, because there's a relationship between the tongue of the speaker and the ear of the receivers. And since I started doing this, daily readings live streamed, my taste for hearing about Krishna has increased a lot. And it's due to the mercy of all of you and all of you out in cyberspace. The mercy of the Vaishnavas is everything. And without the mercy of the Vaishnavas, we cannot take a step forward. So I thank all of you deeply from the core of my heart. Now, a couple of domestic duties or announcements. Starting today, we're going to read at 6:30, Monday through Fridays. And on Saturday and Sundays, we're going to read at 4:30, Central Standard Time in America. And I'll be here long enough so that we will definitely be here for when the time changes to daylight savings time, and we'll announce the difference then. But as a result of this daily hearing and chanting here in Houston, now there's a group of young Western devotees. And like I said in the beginning, we say that they're our kids because they're younger than most of us. And they're over at the farm having a party. But they're doing the same thing we're doing. They're hearing, they're reading out loud, they pass the book around, and they have kirtan and discussion and prasadam. And I've heard that they get up to 30, 35 people at these programs, Friday night programs. So this is all happening by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, by the mercy of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. No other the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we expect that things are going to increase. My disciple, Pranata Karuna, has just come. I don't know if you've seen him yet. He's quite a effulgent young brahmachari, and he's dedicating his life to hearing Bhagavatam and to trying to make new devotees and make training for new, especially brahmacharis, because he's a brahmachari. So we pray for that to happen here so that we can diversify this community. And we need the mercy of all the Vaishnavas out there to do this and to have facilities eventually. We talked to Shamasundar, our temple president, and he is in back of this idea, behind it, and he's made a vow to build ashrams. It'll take some time, and we have to get permissions, and the way the government is now, it's like so difficult to get permissions to do anything nowadays. And but we look forward to the future expansion and the nectar that we're experiencing now. We look forward to the increase of that ocean of nectar, Anandam, Buddhi Vardhanam. And I told the devotees over at the temple last time we were there and reading at one day, and when I was here last, that if it comes to the point where every night there's too many people to put in this room, which it hasn't come to yet, but if it does come to that, then we'll move over to the temple room and wait until the temple room fills up. And this is the way the Kirtan Mela program started, actually, in Mayapur. When Tamal Krishnamurti's room, he hadn't been in after he had started his academic life, academic studies, he wasn't at a GBC meeting for some time, years, and when the year he came back, that was the year he left, actually, and he had about 8 of us. There was him, Shivaram Maharaj, Niranjan Maharaj, Radhanath Maharaj, Govinda Maharaj, and a few others, Jaidwaita Maharaj, in the room. We were chanting, and very soon the room filled up. And just in a few days, there were so many devotees that we couldn't continue, so we moved it down to the temple room, and that was the beginning of the Mela, the Kirtan Mela. So the Kirtan Mela is meant to bring us to the point of being able to want to glorify the Lord constantly, every day, like this. Yes. I've already talked to Satyananda Maharaj and Indadu Maharaj and Govinda Maharaj about this, to have in these melas, to introduce, half-hour, sessions of reading from Prabhupada's books, to try to elevate even more the ecstasy. Because even if we go to a mela and get all enthused, and then if it doesn't change our day-to-day practices, our day-to-day activities, our day-to-day experience of Krishna consciousness, then it's something else. Okay, I thank you so much again and again. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Lord Kapila Dev ki jai. The teachings of Lord Kapila Dev to Mother Devahuti ki jai. Mother Devahuti herself ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. We'll see you tomorrow night at 4:30 Central Time here in Houston. Hare Krishna. Haribo. Haribo.